Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott here, and this is the Market MRI Pro nightly update for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. What a week we've had for the bulls. You have everything you could want. You've got a ceasefire. Hopefully it holds. And you have to realize that Iran and Israel have been in a state of war since I was born. Never had a treaty between the two of them. You have Trump looking like a hero, going to be nominated by Pakistan for the Nobel Peace Prize. That's interesting. And you got Powell even sounding a little dovish. So what else could we want? I think we have a test of old highs coming. Again, my name is Jeffrey Scott. My email is at marketmripro@gmail.com. You might know me as hgsidoc@gmail.com. I'm going to be retiring that one soon. And I have a Google group, welcome you to join, called Top Down Trader. Maybe soon I will start to go back to Discord for intraday discussions, but right now I still work for a living. Although the market's been better than my income working this year. Oof. This session's for educational purposes only. Anything we talk about should be taken in the spirit of education and not investment advice. The intent of the video is to demonstrate the tools of top-down analysis and how I apply them. We'll be focusing tonight with Market MRI Pro. Trading involves risk. You are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock mentioned in this report. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky. You should consult with your financial advisor before making trades. And I have tools for multiple platforms, but am an independent trader. My Google group's called Top Down Trader. Why would you want to join? Well, I give you extra discounts on my tools. I do members only events. I give you extra discount when you come to my education programs. And I don't charge you anything. So you get free stuff, no cost. And I do this, why? Because it's the only mailing list I keep. I don't monetize it anyway. I don't sell it to others. Just something that I can communicate to the folks that follow me with. Hope you consider joining. News and earnings. Wednesday's a light day. We got new home sales, which are projected to be down from the previous month. And I think the big news today was that Powell was, one person I listened to said that he was dovish and made some comments that sounded less dovish. And then the next guy that came on said, oh, really dovish. So I'm going to go review the minutes, the transcription, make my own idea. But we've heard a steady state of Fed leaders talking about close to the first cut. If we look at earnings, you could see we had FedEx, and I saw their numbers. They came out, and I thought they looked okay from a beat perspective. I'm not sure what they talked about going forward. I don't have a position in FedEx, so to be honest, I wasn't spending too much time there. Carnival had good earnings this morning, I believe, and it was up significantly all day. FedEx right now is down 4.8% on earnings. BlackBerry and Worthington, I guess it's a steel company, are up double digits, or at least Worthington's up 11.3 after hours. And right now it's 8:51 p.m. I never know what's the best time to do these. So I do them when I free up and put my grandkid to sleep. Futures are flat to positive right now, so nothing big happening. As I say down here, it's a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It's bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. And we've got Micron tomorrow night. I think that may be an interesting one. I forgot to update the index, but the index is holding. It, hopefully we'll join the party and we'll see it jump up to new highs soon. And I think that's where the market's going. And then just to remind everybody, tomorrow night, which is Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a beginner's guide to Market MRI Pro. I'm going to kind of talk through what we've built and kind of where we're going, I think, from a perspective of my kind of trader. Swing to position trader who doesn't want to spend all day in the markets, who doesn't want to spend all night looking at charts, who wants to get a strong and reasonable assessment of what the markets are doing, what the leading industry groups are, and some of the top stocks. That's what we made the tool for. So, and my programmer Praveen will have a bunch of surprises. I'll show you one or two of them tonight. You also can get a free trial at Market MRI Pro. I think it'd be really good to come to that beginner's guide meeting and maybe get your trial either before or after it so you could um, use it along with my instructions. And then a lot of people ask me, well, what do you really do when you're not doing a video? And how do you approach the market? So I pretty much live in three different tools. And then I have a couple extra tools. Um, Market MRI Pro is probably the main tool that I live in. TradeStation, for the most part, is no longer my pivotal program, but it still has Sager Nandy stuff in it, which I really like a lot. It has John Person stuff in it. It's the only place today where I can marry all three of those. And I have a scanner in that, which, frankly, I'd like to see that scanner in Market MRI Pro, but we'd have to get a deal with Sagar. And right now, Sagar seems to be not interested in any new platforms. That's not a new thing. He's sort of at that point in life where, except for the fact he recently had a baby, he seems to be enjoying life. I guess you can enjoy life with a baby. But I'll show you my workflow, how I integrate TradeStation and Market MRI Pro and some of the other platforms that my tools are in. Let's go take a look at the charts. So I always like to start with this picture. And this here is the daily briefing in the Market MRI Pro. This will update if you wanted to close to real time. It's a real time feed, but you have to basically click on this during the day and it will update in just a few seconds and give you the current pricing. Based on how I trade, I don't need it to be streaming, and therefore you don't need to, if you're like me, why would you want to pay for streaming data, which is significantly more expensive? In fact, we include this real-time data feed in the program, but it's manually updated. It's not going to be ticks, and it's not going to update without you hitting the refresh. Bitcoin was up 2.37%. It's actually having a big move this week. Closed right in the middle. The Qs led the equities up 1.5, Russell 1.26, Diamonds 1.19, and the Spiders 1.1. And they all finished above the 75th percentile. I mean, they all finished in the upper part of the day. Why is that important? Because that's bullish. That's 2 days in a row. The dollar was down again, closing right below the middle of the range, and volatility bled out down almost 7% at the bottom of the range. You'll see a pickup in here, the net new highs minus new lows of 12 months on both the NYSE, and it's turned up on the NASDAQ. Now, double digits are great. For me to get excited, I've got to see over, triple digits will get me excited there. Bull markets are built on new highs, and that's why I like to watch them. The S&P 500 sectors, you can see only one of them was down today, and no shocker, energy got hammered, and we'll look at the charts in a few minutes, down 1.31%, and finishing in the bottom quarter of the day. Risk comes out of the Mideast. The Straits of Hormuz being blocked becomes less risky. Oil's going to come down. And you could see here that the leadership was tech, financials, communication, healthcare, interestingly, industrials. So a strong day throughout. And I guess staples, another defensive, mostly flat, but also down a little bit as well. What types of themes were working? Cannabis, I don't pay much attention to it. Maybe it's because I'm as old as I am. But you look over the last 20 days, it's been down 15%. It's flat over the last couple of months. Unless there's legislative change, you're buying news flow. Blockchain, solar, which is interesting after, unless there was some revision by the Supreme Court of whether or not credits can be taken away. Lithium batteries, semiconductors, fintech, boy, the stuff you want to see if you're a growth stock investor. Over here, you could see the three major indices that I track. We're going to add the Russell. I think it'll fit with the rest of the program. The first bars look at sectors, what percent are positive today versus yesterday. Industry groups, positive today versus yesterday. Percentage of advances. And then down here is how many are above the midline. In bull markets, you're going to have over 50% above the midline. So you could see, interestingly, in the S&P 1500, you have nominally less sectors and industry groups positive compared to 1 day ago. But I wouldn't be bothered too much by that fact because you had 75% of the stocks were up which is higher, I believe. Lots of sectors and industry groups up in the NASDAQ, 74% of the stocks are higher, and a little weaker on sectors and industry groups on the NYSE, but stronger here, 68% of the stocks were up. This was a positive day in the U.S. markets. You know that, you're trading the markets. It was positive enough to flip our timing model. Looking here at the dailies, and notice that the spider with this major gap up off of the WMA flipped the bongo and is now in a buy. The NASDAQ never came out of the buy, big gap up. The diamonds, big gap up, a new buy, and the Russell also is in a buy. So the dailies are long, and if we look at the weeklies are all long, and I'm just looking at the red and green. So I think it's okay to be very long here, and I added to positions. At some point, we're going to start getting overbought, and we'll look at some indicators around that as we go forward. The U.S. indexes, lots to like, lots to like. Let's open up the spider. Now I'm going to have to get Praveen to put a measuring tool in, but this is all-time highs, and the all-time high is at the 613 range. We closed at the 606. We're within 1% of all-time highs on the spider. We have come up from a low in the neighborhood of, the low there was 481, and the high here was 607. So we had a big, big move here. And it was a V bottom, and now we've started to consolidate, but this looks like a fresh breakout. I don't know how this isn't a bullish looking chart, except for here the volume wasn't great. So I think we have to anticipate new highs and a failure, an expectation breaker. That's something to pay attention to as well. The other thing, I'll show you in a second, the other thing. Gap up on the Qs, and if we look here, I think that we may have had all-time closing highs on the Q. The close on this one was 539.52, 538.17, $539.78. So nominally we made new all-time highs today on the Qs. Woohoo for the Qs. That also means, I don't know if this has been activated yet. I think it is in this version. We're in a triple top area, and that's one concern you could have. Here's your golden cross, but wow. Relative strength turning up, excuse me, OBV turning up, and we'll talk about what's on the bottom in a few moments. How do you not be bullish with that picture? Diamonds, let's take a look. Gapped up, took out the 200. Volume looks pretty decent. Now this one's different than the others. This one is way off of its all-time highs. So we got some work to do before we're going to get to all-time highs, but we probably just took out that trend line, which had 1, 2, 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4 touches. So pretty significant breakout here on the diamonds. But again, a little bit further to go to new highs. And then what's been the laggard, it's around for round 2 at the 200-day moving average. We'll see if the Russell can get above it. All of these were up over 1%. Obviously, the laggard here is the Russell, but let's see if we can't take out the 200. How awesome would that be? So VIX, no surprise, dropped significantly, 11.65%, and the dollar traded down as well. You want to know what a weak dollar looks like? This is the trend line, and we cannot break above that trend line. The dollar was down 0.51. Looking at the commodities, risk off. Risk off. What do you expect to happen? You expect gold to come down. It came down 1.5%. You expect silver to come down 1%. Now, look at that bottoming tail. Maybe we're going to see a short-term bottom there. Oil dropped hard because of the ceasefire, down over almost 4.5%, and natural gas kept up with a down 3.5%, I believe. 10-year and the 30-year both dropped as well. And again, this has got to be good for the market. Down 0.81 on the 10 and down 0.68 on the 30. If we look at the buckets, we're shifting to the right. But when you look at the number of stocks, 5%, 9%, 8%, 8% that are above, actually it's not a 9, not a 5. None of those are big enough numbers for me to worry. This is still a neutral looking pattern to me. Market breadth, this is when good news might be bad. You can see fresh breakout of the NYSE. Still got a ways to go to get to all-time highs. Same thing on the composite NASDAQ, but both big moves. If we look at volume, volume was not great today again, although it looked okay on the diamonds. And what you see here is stocks above the 50, above the 20, and above the 200, and both of these moved up some, but they're not to the extremes. And then if you look down the middle here, you see new high, new lows, positive about both, finally to double digits. Advanced declines positive, and up-down volume positive. Now, sometimes I get nervous when I see this. This is a eureka. A eureka is a finding that you may see in the setting of a bottom and the market turning around. It is sort of the Ian Woodward equivalent of a follow-through day. It's a very bullish thing to find. But when you see it after a big run and approaching old highs, it sometimes feels like irrational exuberance. So that might be a caution sign. And then ratio charts will come to in a second. Go back to the U.S. indexes and show you what I wanted to show you that I forgot to mention. We've put the 13-week new high, new lows now into each index here. You could see the spiders is kind of getting overbought. And often when you get this overbought, you start to get little pullbacks like we saw here. You're at 0.84 of the Qs. You are at only 46% on the diamonds. Remember, they're not close to old highs. Russell's had a big move of late and is at 0.94. So getting frothy, especially on the spiders. That's the only one that's given me that feeling of signal. You'll notice I've got a tab you don't have here called seasonality, and you don't see anything yet, and that's because I'm waiting for Praveen to release the scanner to me. Praveen has now studied every stock in our data set that has enough years of data and looked at every day in the year performance. The first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day. Matched them up over years and has started to build a composite of that performance to see what you would predict over the year a stock would do based upon history. You can then scanning that data to find stocks that have really high likelihood of a seasonality move at a given time. You can build a calendar with it, and I'll show you what we can do with charting. So very excited. We'll certainly talk more about it on Saturday. And yes, if you own Market MRI Pro, it's part of the package. There's no additional charge. So let's go into my layout. And the first thing I want to do is talk about something that Praveen was showing me yesterday. And, how do you know I'm telling you the truth? You don't, but let me see if I can't. Well, hopefully you believe I'm telling you the truth. So yesterday, Praveen, he gets really, he's awesome, but he gets really excited when he puts stuff together, and he was all over this Liberty stock, LBR. In some platforms it's DK, it was DA and Rs, and he was all over it because he found a cluster of super strong seasonality. So I put it on my watch list today because of a possible seasonality play. I think that technicals trump seasonality, and what we saw here was it had a breakout of a flag or trend line if you think it's too much for a flag. This here is soon to be hopefully launched add-on, which includes a John Person set of tools. This is his PPS indicator, one of my favorite tools. Um, he had breakout and momentum, relative strength turned up, OBV turned up. It's not extended. And here's what I really liked about it when I looked at anticipated move. Things got huge seasonality. Technically, it looks really strong. And this is Liberty Broadband Corporation. It's not a cheap stock. I always like to look up here and see when the earnings are, and the next earnings are not here yet. So it's going to be in August. The last earnings were May 7th. It doesn't pay a dividend. Um, Other thing you can look for here is news to see if anything came out. Spinning off GCI, and that was a couple days ago. Don't know, good or bad. So that was pretty cool. Now, one of my holdings, and frankly, I'm getting nervous with this puppy, but I've been in this one for a while. Hood had a great session in the market today, and I hadn't looked at seasonality of Hood. It's still a relatively young company, but it's also in the setting of huge seasonality. So I think having this ability, yes, you could do this in wealth charts, and you can buy freestanding programs that will do this as well. But this is going to be part of our package, and the scanner will be, I think, differentiating. So those are two of the stocks I like, although Hood, you have to look up here and see, oh, it's getting extended. So rather than go into a deep analysis tonight, I've talked a lot already. Let me just show you a couple of picks that I'm going to be looking at tomorrow that we'll look at perhaps over the weekend how I found them. I got to come up with an oldie but a goodie. We talked about GEV when Praveen and I a while back, we were watching it, and we bought it here, and it had a huge move. It did the exact same move here with the breakout, and look at GEV all-time highs today. Wow. All right, GTES, Gates Industries. I have no idea what they do. I don't even care what they do. I just want to make sure they don't have earnings coming out tomorrow. Gates Industries, make sure I'm on the daily. I am. Big move up with the market, a pullback, a little bit of a consolidation here and a breakout. At least short-term seasonality looked okay to me. Look at the, well, that's kind of interesting. Hold on a second. I'll have to figure this out. How are we having, Praveen, we disconnected the signals, but it's recently came out of a squeeze here. I like the signal here. That's one that I'm going to be looking. I'm just looking at the formatting, and the dates are not matching up. And this should be, that's today's date. It's just, I wish I had a program that could tell me what's happening in the future. That would be pretty cool. That's one that I liked. In fact, let me just pull over so we can look at the chart in a different platform real quick. And I mentioned that in TradeStation, and that's what I'm trying to bring over. It's always slow for me to move it from monitor to monitor. Let me pause for a second. Well, it's not going to let me pause because whatever I do, when I do this, it does weird things to my monitors. Come on. This is called Jeffrey has too many things on. All right, perfect. So I want to show you a couple things. Here is a list of stocks that I think are really good. And so I got a couple of them. So let me make sure this is set up right. Let me look at the next chart. All right, let me turn this to multi-blue, or excuse me, cyan. Oh, cyan and cyan. And then let me go back one chart. So basically, what we built in TradeStation, and I know I said this was going to be about Market MRI Pro tonight, but I mentioned before that TradeStation becomes an unusual platform for me because I can combine Sagar Nandi's incredible work, John Person's incredible work, and my work and do it in one program. So the one that this one we're looking at here is GTES, and I'll show you why I liked it, and it's going to open up on the triple charts. Let's look at it here. It's easier to see. Come on, TradeStation. So why do I like about it? On both the daily, this is the weekly, and on the daily, we had a breakout. You could see it had a momentum breakout in volume, a new EMS signal, and relative strength is breaking out, as is OBV. And on the weekly chart, it also popped out of a trend line breakout. So I thought GTES looked fine and one that I went after. And let me show you what's really cool in the TradeStation scanner that we built. And if you have TradeStation, you can only do this complete scanner. I've got one without Sager stuff, but what I'm going to show you requires Sager stuff. So we can run a list of stocks, and these are not my holdings. It's about 1,000 stocks that I scan at night. And then I run the scan once, and it assigns all the values. And then I develop my own filters, so I don't have to run the scan again. I can just open up, and let's look at my pullback and uptrend with a Q breakout. So I'm combining my stuff with Sager stuff. And that's when that list will get smaller. And what I wanted to look at were several of these stocks tonight. And so I'm going to go back into Market MRI Pro. Another one was KB Financial. Now when I see that, I wonder if that's related to KB Homes or not. Doesn't really matter because that's not a bad looking chart. Now seasonality looks okay. But big run up, your flag, and a gap up. And again, I got to talk to Praveen about the disconnect between the price bars and the signals down here. I think that's a quick fix that we have to do. And by the way, I am using the beta layout, so maybe I better switch to the... All right, I just switched to away from the beta version to the standard version, and you can see that everything lines up here, but you won't see the seasonality because unless he snuck it in here and didn't tell anybody, yeah, it's underpriced. We haven't put this into the standard version. It'll be there hopefully this weekend or soon thereafter. Big uptrend, a flag, and a breakout, which is why I like KB Financial. A tech play that I like, Twillo, TWLO. Uptrend, pullback, and broke out above the 17 with breakout momentum out of a squeeze. American Express, I guess this means people don't think we got a recession coming because credit cards don't do great. But I know this is a financial services company, much more than a credit card. Run up, consolidation, and broke out of the range today. Not much volume, that's bothersome. Out of a squeeze, breakout momentum. And what else I found? And then the one that I really like, which I talked about a few minutes ago, is Liberty Broadband, LBRDA. Where is that? Yeah, for some reason it doesn't like it. Let me try it one more time. LBRD. There it is. Well, that was bad. I hit the wrong key. LBRDA. And there it is. It already showed up. And again, the reason why I liked it, there was multiple reasons. I talked about the super strong seasonality, and I like that breakout. Volume is okay. Breakout momentum, relative strength, OBV look good. Have an awesome day in the market on Wednesday, and please join me Wednesday night for the beginner's guide to the Market MRI Pro, where I'll answer your questions, show you how the different windows that I look at, show you how to build your own charts, and talk a little bit about where our roadmap is going. And then again, you'll see a link in tomorrow night's video on Wednesday night after I do the training session of a, more of a users group meeting on Saturday. Plus, you'll see information about the free trial. Thanks, everybody, and see you tomorrow night.